So for this video here, we are going to lay out a W truss, also known as a Fink truss, using 1/4 and 1/3 points. We're also going to draw this using the 1/4 inch equals a foot scale on your architect's rule. So using the 1/4 inch scale, we're going to draw in the bottom chord, which is going to be 24 feet. So I'm just going to kind of roughly center it there on your screen. And then I'm going to draw on a line 24 feet long at the 1/4 inch scale. Right? So there is my truss, 24 feet long. So from side to side, we have A, we have B, and 24 feet of the 1/4 inch scale. So first up here, this truss will be symmetrical. It will be an isosceles triangle. So first thing we have to do is we have to bisect this. So this is a longer line, so I'm probably just going to go slightly over half, just so our marks can stay on the screen. So I think I'm going to lose a bit below here. All right. So by the time that meets, I'm well off the screen. So I'm actually going to shrink that up just a bit. Let's go somewhere there. Okay, so I'm going to draw a mark below, a mark above, and then same thing from A, a mark above, and a mark below. That just about is off the screen, but I can still see it. So with that, I'm going to draw up my perpendicular line here. So I'm going to draw this one in green, and then I'll come back and darken the truss at the end, just so we see it. So I'm going to use these 2 points here, and I'm just finding my midpoint. All right. So now I've just drawn a line straight down, so now I've done a bisection of AB. Okay, and this finds the center of my truss, which now, using the 1/4 inch scale, I am going to lay out the ridge, or the top of the truss, with a height of 5 feet. So setting this on my scale ruler here, I'm going to go to 5 feet. Okay, oops. 5 feet right there, and then 0. So just right. So there. Let's set to 5 feet using my 1/4 inch scale. So now, using this, I can mark off the top of my truss. Okay? So now that this is the top of the truss, I can actually connect in and draw in this isosceles triangle that's going to make up the outside edges of the truss. So setting up at B and then intersecting at C, which is our ridge height, connect down to B. I'm going to do the same thing from A and connect up to C. All right. So that now just draws me an equilateral triangle with this my center point here, and then this color here, green. This is just to find this center of the truss, which allowed me to mark up the 5 foot ridge height there. So next up, what I want to do is, now that I have this bottom chord split into 2 different sides, we're actually going to put 1/4 points in up at the top. So the 1/4 points are going to intersect this top chord here and this top chord here. So because this right now is half, I want to basically just bisect from this center mark here over to A, which will give me a 1/4 point. It'll be a 1/4 of the whole distance. This is set for half. This would be a 1/4. And this over here, if I bisect from center to this B, that would be 3/4. Right? So that would, when I've done this division, it would be 1/4, a 1/4, a 1/4, and a 1/4. So let's do that. I'm going to bisect from A to the center point here. So I'm just going to set my compass up on the center point or midpoint of that bottom chord. I set up about 3/4 away, thereabouts. I draw an arc above and an arc below, and then I draw an arc above and an arc below, and I'm going to repeat this from B. So I set my compass on B, arc below and above, and then from the center, same thing, above and below. Now I'm not going to draw these verticals in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same green that I used before. I'm going to take my straight edge here, and these are quarter points, so I just want them to intersect that top chord. So once I have this in alignment where I want, I'm just going to put a mark right there. And then I come over to this side, this bisection from the center over to B, line that up, and then same thing, I'm just going to put a mark there. So now I have it marked here and here. So these divisions from A to this mark is 1/4 of the whole distance. From this mark to center is another 1/4 of the whole distance. From center to this mark is 1/4 of the whole distance. And then the lastly is 1/4 of the whole distance. And these quarters are based on this bottom chord, right? And then they're just transferred up to this point. But I don't want to clutter the drawing up, so I didn't draw these down here on this line. Okay, that would have just made more clutter that I didn't need. So I just extended them and drew them up at the top chord where they're needed, right? But I still did the architectural lines, so I know that these are accurate. Next up here, what we have to do is we have to do our bottom chord. And the bottom chord division is in thirds. So what we have to do is divide AB equally up into 3 pieces. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to do one of my favorite techniques here. I'm just going to draw an acute angle somewhere down on the bottom. All right? I put it in orange there. I'm going to keep doing the arcs here in orange, just so we can see it and distinguish it from all the upper work that we did. If the quarter points all up here, that's all red to create those 2 top chords on the quarter points. But then the bottom chord we're going to construct here using this orange. So to start out, I'm going to set my compass on A, and I'm going to shrink up to some reasonable radius. Remember, I only want 3 spaces, right? So there's 1, 2, 3 visually is going to put me somewhere down here, which is fine, right? I'm just going to go just a little bit bigger, just so I have room. And I step off once. I step off twice. And then I step off that 3rd time. Now we're just off the screen here from this 3rd one. And I hope that's not going to be a bother for you. Actually, what I can do, if you don't mind, is just paper. So I'm going to slide that up just a bit. Okay, so now we see that 3rd point. So we have 1, 2, 3. So now what I do is I take my straight edge, and then I take my square, I seem to have misplaced my little square. And try with this one. Okay, so first thing, I set up my square to hit the 3rd point, the 3rd final division that I want to do, and our end point. So I'm lining up here to hit this point, and then I'm lining it up with B. Okay, so that's the way I'm going to start. Now that I've got that set up correctly, I can adjust my straight edge, right, to be riding along the bottom edge of this square. And this thing here is set up to intersect the 3rd point I have and B. And now basically what I want to do is slide this ruler along that straight edge. Okay? So I've got that set up where I want it. Now I slide the ruler to intersect the 2nd point that I have, which is this arc right here. And that's in line. And now all I need to do is put a line across the bottom chord. I just drew a line there. And now I just slide the ruler up. to intersect that third point, or the first point really here. See that cross there? And then where that intersects, I put a mark there. So now I'm done with that. And on this bottom chord, I have 1/3 to this point, another third to this point, and another third to that. So I just split line AB into 3 equal pieces. And now comes in the last final thing I need to do. I'm going to connect the quarter point on the top to the third point on the bottom, and then repeat that for the third point on the bottom up to the midpoint, and then from the top point, the midpoint, down to that next third point on the bottom, and then connect back up to that last quarter point. And you should see that actually makes the W shape, which is why this is called a W truss. Okay? It's also called a Fink truss. But basically the idea is this top here, this is a quarter distance to this, and the next one is a quarter distance, the next one is a quarter distance, and this one is a quarter distance. So all of these are quarter distances across the top chord. And then on the bottom down here, this is a third distance, the next one is a third distance, and the next one is a third distance, so a third of AB. So the top ones are quarters of AB, the bottom one is thirds of AB, and that's how we draw in a W truss or Fink truss.